For this video, I'm going to have to imagine a beautiful waterfall and small birds chirping peacefully, and I'll have to take deep breaths. And why do I need to do this? In order to relax myself, because I am so excited for this video. I've been looking forward to this for some time. This is an analysis video of a game, the first of two that I played against Darth Facetious, who is a patron and supporter of this channel, and that is just so awesome. Now I get to pick his brain and see what he learned from my videos. So I'm really excited about that. The point is that I will analyze this game and then later a different game we played, and then I will try to see if I can understand his playing style, and also see if I can find some weaknesses in his play. Based on this analysis, I will give suggestions about how he can improve his play, and hopefully we will all learn just a little bit throughout this experience. But as you may be able to detect in my voice, I am so excited about this. So waterfall, chirping birds, waves on a beautiful beach on some lonely island somewhere. Alright. I am also very happy to see that on move 1, Darth Facetious plays d4. That's awesome. This is my move, in that I've been playing this for white almost exclusively for almost as long as I've been playing chess, I think. Only recently have I started to dabble with e4 in order to play the King's Gambit, which is an opening that I'm slowly falling in love with. But d4, the queen's pawn, is a very, very good first move. As you can see, it is defended by the queen, and it opens up for the bishop. Furthermore, this is the most important thing, it controls the center, namely these two squares. And in this game, control of the center will be a theme. Not as you may have seen in some of my King's Gambit videos, where because the center is neglected, a checkmating attacks seems to come out of nowhere, but on a more positional note, in that black seems to be able to kind of find some holes in white's position and get a positional grip that later allows him to put enough pressure on white to orchestrate an attack. Well, I am not going to fault Darth Facetious yet, because so far he is playing like the world champion. Literally, Magnus Carlsen, the chess world champion, also very often plays d4 on the first move. I play knight f6, and this is the most popular response to d4. It is very flexible, and it is also very sensible. He takes control of two dark squares, and I take control of two white squares in the center. Also, I like to, if I just slowly get rid of some of all of these arrows. Also, I'd like to play e5. If he plays c4, I can play e5, which is an opening called the Budapest Gambit. And the Budapest Gambit is a very tactical, very sharp opening, which is favorable generally to the stronger player. And I should preface further analysis by saying that I, as black in this game, is significantly higher rated than my white opponent, Darth Facetious. So I like to go for something very sharp, where my tactical eye may be able to spot something that he misses. But he takes it very calm, very slowly, and plays knight to f3. Now this is a very good move when you are playing against someone who is stronger than you, because it is saying, nope, you will not be allowed to take control of this square, because I will control it twice. So this is a very sensible move, and still way within established theory. You will also see grandmasters play this way. I accept that I cannot play the Budapest Gambit, and instead I play g6. This opts for a so-called fianchetto or fianchetto, depending on how you like to pronounce it. I guess actually depending on how good your Italian is. So I like to put my bishop on this diagonal, because here I will be able to attack these two squares that I've highlighted in the center. Remember the center. Remember the center. So my knight will then be attacking the two white squares, and my bishop potentially the two dark squares in the center. And this is a very interesting moment from a theoretical point of view. If I get rid of all these arrows and we just look at the position. Now, what kind of moves are available to white? Well, the only move that white, well, the only two moves probably that white absolutely cannot play is e4, because I can simply take this for free. And the same goes all other moves are playable, but they're not equally good. Let's discuss what a good move in a position early on in the game like this would be. First, we take just a second to think about our long-term plan. What do we want to do long-term? One very important thing is, of course, to get castled. So, we want to take this king and we want to castle somewhere, preferably to the king side. In some cases, we can also choose to go to the queen side. Alright. Then we'd like to develop all of our minor pieces, preferably the knights first, because knights before bishops. That's a little rule for you. In an ideal situation, you'd like to develop your knights first. Many openings require the bishops to be developed first because of tactical reasons. But if you are in a situation and you want to choose between developing a knight and a bishop, and you can't really see which is better, then you should go for the knight. Why? Because the knight is slow. Let's say that you want the knight to attack this square. It will take it 2 moves in order to get to a place where you can attack that square. Now let's say you want a bishop to attack this square. A bishop can go there in 1 move. So by developing the knight first, you are waiting to see where you will need your bishop, and then when the bishop is needed somewhere, you can put it on the right square in the first go, instead of maybe having to move it twice. Alright, so let's get rid of some of these arrows again. So far we know that we want to get the king castled and we want to develop our minor pieces. Remember the center. That is the third very important thing. We want to control the center. Why? Because the center is like a central station. If you are going from somewhere on the board to somewhere else on the board, statistically, you are most likely to go through the center. This means that if one player controls the center, he controls or she controls which piece is allowed to move and which is not. That is a very big power to have. So in this position, moves that come to mind would be knight here. It would attack this square, and together with this knight, all of these squares would be attacked. Also, a very common move in a position like this would be c4. And if you know Ben Feingold, Grandmaster Ben Feingold, the rotating GM, you'll know that c4 is explosive. Now, if you play c4 in a position like this, you attack all of these squares. So that is staking a very significant claim in the center. Now c4 might actually be a little bit preferable to knight to c3, because if you play knight to c3 first, you block c4, but if you play c4 first, you can then later play knight to c3. So can you see how the different, should we say, arguments for moving one piece or another fit together? There is a certain logic. First you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this in order to obtain this goal or some other goal. In any chess position, there will be some goal, some plan that you should aim for, and in order to get to that end you are trying to get to, there is a right move order to get to that place. And there will be tactical considerations, positional considerations, and so on and so forth. And this is one of the aspects that for many people, myself included, when I first started out, can be really intimidating. Because how are you supposed to figure all this stuff out? And I'm here to say, relax. Think of a beautiful waterfall. Take a deep breath. Count down from 3, 2, 1. Because you can just relax. It is not that difficult, actually. It is all a matter of internalizing these principles. And don't worry, even Magnus Carlsen, the super genius world champion, makes mistakes all the time. But by watching this video with me and looking at this game, you will be able to slowly get some ideas in under your skin. And when they get in under your skin, they will start floating around in your brain. And when you play some games, they will slowly start to take root. And after a while, something magical happens. What happens is that your brain stops to think about it. It becomes natural, like intuition. And then you can think about more important things, as like, do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to be defensive? In the end, it will be like riding a bike. When you ride the bike, you are not thinking, oh, I should apply pressure to the pedals in order to gain momentum so that I can move forward through space. No, you might be thinking about what route is the most efficient to get home from work, so you can watch some nice chess videos and relax, maybe. And this is where we want to go with chess as well. Alright, so all of these principles are telling us that we should maybe play knight to c3, or maybe we should wait and play c4 first. We could also try to play a bishop out to to one of these two squares. And the last thing, or like maybe the two last moves, that would be for an experienced player, the ones that came to mind would be to play, I'll just get rid of these arrows, e3 in order to support this pawn. We'd of course prefer to take the center with e4, but remember, black has this knight. So if we think about playing e3, we will of course note that a pawn on this square will block this bishop. So maybe we will wait until we've developed this bishop before we play e3. And the last move that we may consider is g3, mirroring the strategy of black, thinking about fianchettoing a bishop on this diagonal. There are plenty of other moves available. You could play a3, a4, b3, b4, knight here, all kinds of moves, maybe about 16 other moves. And Darth Facetious played one of them. He played b4. And I'll just get rid of some of these arrows. Now, is this a bad move? No, it's not a bad move. It doesn't lose any pieces. It doesn't give black any significant exploitable advantage right away. But is it then a good move? And I would say no, it is not a particular good move. Let's analyze. What good does it do? It attacks these two squares in black's side of the board. That's good. It also opens up for this bishop so that it can come here on this long diagonal. That is also good. But it doesn't really help that much in fighting for the center, so that's not so good. And also, and this is very important and maybe kind of abstract, but I'll just get rid of arrows. This square right here, the yellow one, that square can no longer ever in this game be attacked by a white pawn, because pawns, in the immortal words of Viktor Korchnoi, a chess legend who recently died at the age of, I believe, 85. Yeah, that guy, you know, if you need something to do, read his life history. He learned to play chess during the siege of Leningrad, and he's one of the best chess players ever. Amazing guy. But he said pawns cannot move backwards, and in a way all you need to know about chess is in that statement, because it is so simple. And chess is just that. It is so simple in an unfathomably complex way. Alright, so pawns cannot move backwards. So this square is forever weak. And what do I mean that it is weak? Well, in order to protect this square, white will have to use one of his pieces. He could move his knight here, for instance, if I were to put some important piece here, but then his knight would be a defender, and you'd rather use like the less important pieces, that is the pawns, to be defenders. You could also move this pawn and then have the bishop defend this square, but again you would prefer your bishop to do something more active. So how did I, as black, try to punish white? Well, I played d5. I am already saying, okay, if you will give me this square, I will take this square. So if you see, he has a pawn in the center, it attacks 2 squares, but if he were, for instance, to put a knight here, I could potentially kick it away with a move like this at some point. And the same goes for this square, I could contest that. But this square right here is forever weak. Now after d5, my opponent played this move. And if this guy is called squawn, the rest of the guys are called pawns, but this particular guy happens to be called squawn due to some my bad English, apparently. If squawn had been on this square b3, I would say that the position was very, very equal. But squawn happens to be on b4, and this gives black a so-called positional advantage. Now I play c6 here. I am not doing too much with this move actually. I am strengthening the center, and I am saying, you know, I have time, I have many moves, I can go here, then I can go here, and then I can take this square, and I am in no rush because my plan is built around this weakness, and this is a permanent weakness. So we see knight to c3, and this is a pretty good move in many respects, but I will criticize it for one thing. It is good in that it contests this square and it attacks here, but white could have had a plan to try to repair his position by playing maybe first e3, opening up the bishop for this square, and then playing c4, trying to exchange this pawn for this pawn. And now this pawn is blocked by the knight. It is a small nuance, but this is what is also very interesting in chess. You know, the devil is in the details. Okay, I develop my bishop. I am trying to be very sensible, not trying to rush anything, because I know that my advantage is not going to go away unless I give it away. That is what is nice about having a permanent weakness to exploit. And here my esteemed opponent, Darth Facetious, plays an aggressive move, and I commend him for that. Knight to e5. So he is obviously going for some attack. Now I could react to this move in many ways, and you might say that I'm a bit of a coward because I just castled. But I am looking at his move like we are in some sort of academic discussion, and he is saying, I shall attack you, and I'm saying, okay, you're going to attack me. Well, that means that you believe that you have sufficient power. But if I strengthen my defense, I claim that you do not have sufficient power. And if you do not have sufficient power, then your move was meaningless. So I am trying to make his move bad, not by being counter-aggressive, but by being defensive. And now you can see, what is this knight actually attacking? Of course it's attacking this pawn, but it's alone. And if you attack all of my guys with one guy, you are basically attacking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 guys with one guy. Now, I don't know much about street fighting, but unless we had Bud Spencer involved, I would put my money on the 16 guys. There is a different way that we could have found out that maybe we should do something else before we play knight to e5. Because knight to e5 in and of itself is a great move, but it is too early. And there is this principle in chess that says in the opening you shouldn't move the same piece twice unless you absolutely have to. Why? Because if you do, you are wasting moves. If you instead develop your other pieces, then you will be able to orchestrate an attack that is harmonious, because all of your pieces will play a part. Alright. After I castle, Darth Facetious plays e4. And this is, I would say, overly ambitious, because the idea is completely 100% correct. You want to take the control of the center. And it's, if I didn't have a counter move as black, this would be the perfect move to play. It attacks many squares in the center, notably this pawn. It opens up for the bishop to come to all kinds of interesting places. But, and this is the problem, I do have a counter, and that is that if we count, I'll just get rid of some of these arrows, and my counter is that this pawn is protected by the knight, and it is attacked by the pawn and the knight. So when you put a piece somewhere, a simple sort of exercise you can do in order to see if it is going to turn out well is to first count how many times you attack that square, and then count how many times your opponent is attacking that square. If you are outnumbered, then it might be problematic. And this is, to put it mildly, an oversimplification, because there could be tons and tons and tons of reasons to do it anyway. But as a, should we say, rule of thumb, that is a good starting point when thinking about a move to do. Okay. That method, though, is time consuming, and we should note that we are playing a 5-minute game, giving our white only about maybe 10-15 seconds to think about each move. So that is of course also a little bit unfair, because I am somewhat of a blitz specialist, in that the kind of chess I have played the most in my life is blitz chess. So I know all the dirty little tricks. Well, we are here to learn, so I simply took this pawn. And Darth played the best move, which was to take with his knight, and then I of course recaptured. Now, why was it wise of Darth Facetious to capture this knight? Well, it is true that I have won a pawn. I am now up 1 pawn in what we call the material count. But the pawn is not necessarily the strongest pawn in the world. First of all, it is doubled, meaning that it is potentially in the way of this other pawn. And also, it is for now unprotected. I would have to play a move like this in order to protect the pawn. And if I move this pawn, of course, he will have some attack like this. So my father told me when I was a little boy that when you're playing chess and you have to do something that you don't want, do it in the way that costs the most for your opponent, which is what Darth did here. He recognized, okay, he had made some small mistake, and yes, I would now win a pawn, but he did it in a way so that it was as small of an advantage as possible. And now, of course, he played c4. So, in a way, this is a very good strategy from Darth Facetious, because yes, he gave up 1 pawn, but he did manage to get control of this square again. So sometimes you trade one weakness for another. So I think this was actually very promising play. Now I played knight d7 here, and I am challenging this knight And I'm thinking maybe I should just take it, because his pawn would have to recapture, and that would be kind of an awkward pawn that would be attacked by this bishop, would of course also be defended by this bishop, but I could probably put additional pressure by maybe going here. Also, if I am to trade these two knights off, I will trade a knight that has moved twice for a knight that has moved once. This saves me one move. Now he plays queen b3, and the only way I can be critical of this is that I would probably, and this might be a matter of taste, but I would probably go for developing the bishop first, because I would, in this position, I would really want to castle, because getting the king to safety just makes it possible for you to relax a bit more. With that said, I think that queen to b3 is a pretty good move. You could of course also have considered going to c2, so you would have attacked this pawn, but it is also doing something here. It, for instance, has access to all of this, and it can later, if this move is played, coordinate maybe an attack like this. So all in all, it's a pretty good move. I play queen to c7, and what I want to do is pretty clear. I want to just attack this guy more times than he is defended. I am attacking 1, 2, 3 times, and it is defended 1, 2 times. Now Darth of course recognized this, and he exchanged these knights off. But remember, I had moved one time with my knight, and this is his first, second, third move. So when I recapture like this, we can take stock of the position, and we can see that my rooks are connected, my queen is in play, and both of my bishops are in play. Also, I am castled. Let's contrast this with white's position. White's queen is in play, and white's bishop is in play. Also, we are seeing some pretty good control of the center, but the rooks are not connected, this bishop is not yet participating, and the king is not castled. So how did this happen? You know, white starts with the move, so shouldn't white be the one ahead in development of the pieces? Well, it happened because that even though Darth Facetious played pretty well tactically, he had some small positional errors that meant that he lost a little bit of time during these first 11 moves. One of these were moving his knight 3 times, while I just moved my knight 1 time. He played c5, and this opens up for the queen. Here pins this pawn, and now this guy can also come here and aid the attack. It is a little bit slow in that the king is still not castled, which I think at this point should be a priority. Also, this square was attacked before by this pawn, and you could have argued that a move like e5 would be nice to get in at some point. But this is one of these moves that it is not bad. It is simply not good. And when you play somebody who is stronger than you, he or she might be able to find some small weaknesses in moves that are not good, and they will be able to creep in. For instance, I in this position play bishop to e6. This attacks the queen, of course, so Darth puts his own bishop in the way. I exchange, and then I play e6. So if we are to take stock of this position right here, we can say that yes, black is one pawn ahead, and he is also a little bit ahead in development. But if we remember that at this point Darth Facetious was rated 1200, and I was rated 1957. I think that Darth should be very happy with his play. Like, this position is not losing, it is simply a little bit worse, and that is what happens. He plays castle to the queen side, which is, should we say, a brave decision. I would have castled to the king side, because if I'm honest, I am sometimes a little bit of a chicken, and this king could get exposed to some attacks pretty quickly, where if he had been protected by these pawns, it would be harder to attack him. I did a video called Everything You Need to Know About Castling. It's on my channel, and if you want to look into how you castle and what kind of benefits it has and in what situation you would like to do it and how and all of this stuff, you could watch that video. I throw this check, trying to take advantage of the exposed king, because I'm saying I can attack your king, and I can at the same time attack this pawn. And if you just move your pawn, then move your king, rather, sorry, I can capture this pawn, and I will then be 2 pawns ahead in the material count. That might not sound like too much, but the more experienced you get, the easier it will be to understand how you can slowly turn the screws. And if you're 1 pawn ahead, it is easier to get to being 2 pawns ahead. And if you're 2 pawns ahead, it is easier to get to being 3 pawns ahead. And you can just slowly increase because every time you take 1 pawn off the board, your opponent has less resources to defend with, making your forces stronger in comparison. Now here Darth played rook to d2, and I saw a plan. I could probably have played bishop here. This would threaten to just take, and then probably the rook would be defended, maybe by other rook, or probably like this, because this queen would also defend here, and then maybe I would be able to at some point win this rook for this bishop, which would give me some small extra advantage. But I decided to go for something different. I played e3, and I simply said, okay, this pawn was a little bit weak here, it was doubled. I would like to exchange this pawn for this pawn. And I suspected that my opponent would capture like this, and I would then capture here, and then I would have exchanged my weak pawn for a strong pawn. Small sort of, should we say, advantage. And I'm just piling on small advantages. This is an idea I got from the first ever official world champion, an Austrian guy called Wilhelm Steinitz, who said that tactics flow from superior positions, meaning that if you can collect a lot of small advantages, your position will at some point be so good that you will have a winning tactic. Unfortunately, at this point, my opponent played a losing mistake, and he said later that he suffers from something that he calls pawn blindness. That has nothing to do with certain websites, by the way. Pawn blindness, like these guys, meaning that he only looks at what squares are attacked by pieces, and not so much by pawns. So he played rook h to d1, which unfortunately does not really take into account that I can simply capture like this. And my opponent recaptured, and I am now a rook and a pawn ahead in the material count. Oh, I'm just a rook ahead, sorry. I'm just a rook ahead, but that is and should be enough for a reasonably experienced player to win a game, unless your opponent has some sort of significant compensation. I played a6. This doesn't do too much, and probably I should have played this maneuver, but I think maybe I was getting short of time at this point. I'm not too sure. My opponent played g3, hoping that I too suffer from pawn blindness, but I was able to spot that my queen was attacked, so I moved it back. And I will go over the rest of this game fairly quickly, because I think most of the interesting battle, the positional battle, is over now, and it is more a technical sort of issue for me to just show how black should be winning this. He plays d4, really nothing much to do. I capture this, and the queen moves away. And now I'm able to take here with check, the king takes, and I can go here with the queen. Let's check, the king moves, and I play a5. Why? Well, my eye has spotted that if I can capture like this, the rook can come in and give check, and together with the queen I should be able to get some checkmating attack going. Instead he captures, but of course I can recapture, renewing the threat of taking here. We see f4, asking a question: where do you want to go with your queen? But I asked a counter question saying, well, where do you want to go with your king? Because checkmate ends the game, so you don't have any time to take this queen. The king moved here, and I played a little check, and you can see that king only has one square. It is here, and now queen to here is checkmate. So that was the game. Now, I know that I was very fast in going over the last part of the game here, but really it was just a matter of technique. What's really interesting, I think, was the first part of the game. So we saw from the first part of the game that Darth had quite a good understanding of how to develop his pieces and get control of the center. But it was not a perfect understanding, and I would recommend, based on this game, to think about in every game, probably actually playing, first of all, games with long time controls, maybe correspondence games where you have one move every day or every 3 days, or at least like 30-minute games or something, and then don't really invest too much time into thinking about rating points or winning or losing, but just thinking really deeply in the opening about what is my long-term plan, what would I like to do long-term, and then thinking about, okay, if I play this move, how does that affect my long-term plan? Does it make it easier for me to do, or does it make it maybe impossible for me to do? And also focus on trying to gain control of the center. Now this may seem like it's very hard to do based on this game, But if you play somebody who isn't rated almost 1,000 points higher than you, you will find that it is quite doable. And I'd say also one thing that will probably help Darth would be to go over every single game played to see, especially in the opening, where could I have improved, and not necessarily coming up with definite answers, just looking at it, seeing, my opponent played like this, and here I felt that I lost the grip, or here I felt I made a really good move, and then looking at them and seeing, okay, was it good, was it bad, what arguments can be made back and forth. And that is, I'd say, based on this game, the most important things. Because yes, I could say that you should always look out for pawns, but I don't think that it is a very relevant critique of Darth's play. I think that that is simply a question of being at a certain level and have a certain amount of experience, and it is not something you have to think too much about. It will just come. The more games you play, and the more often you lose a rook to a pawn because you missed that the pawn could take it, the likelihood of it happening again will go down and down and down and down. I think that based on this game, that the most important thing is to consider the gaining control of the center and thinking about that when you play, especially after the game, because during the game your thoughts can be everywhere, but when you look at the game afterwards, you can sort of try to gain some insight into the story of the game, and how does the control of the center relate to that story. And when you look at the end of a game and you can see, oh, my knight ended over here maybe, and it was maybe a big problem, then you can say, okay, when I rewind and go back to the start of the game, what did I think about the knight? Where did I move it? How did it end out there? And just make small observations and small mental notes, because they stick, because they are language, and the human brain is built to remember language. Now this is the first video of a game. I will do a second video of a different game, the last game that we played, and I will analyze that as well, and based on that I will give some more detailed analysis of how I believe that Darth can improve. I hope that all of you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. If you want to have your game analyzed like this, you can check out my Patreon. I am trying to get a service up and running like this, and otherwise just check out some more videos, or go play some chess somewhere, or smile to some stranger, or do whatever you please. I love all of you. I'm so happy for all of your kind comments, and yeah, you mean the world to me. So thanks for listening to me, and see you